Uproar around Germany's proposal to implement tax breaks for foreigners in order to tackle a labor shortage.
This is the moment 3 American freed prisoners landed back on US soil as President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris waited to welcome them on the tarmac. It was hugs and tears that could be seen as Moscow released former US Marine Paul Whelan, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, and Russian-American journalist Alsu Kurmasheva.
It feels wonderful. Long time in coming.
I feel great. It's a long time coming. Yeah. So I'm glad to be back.
Meanwhile, images emerged of Russian opposition activists freed safely back in Germany. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin welcomed home 8 Russian prisoners who have been released from prisons across the US, Norway, Germany, Poland, and Slovenia.
Имеет прямое отношение к военной службе. Хочу поблагодарить вас за верность присяге, своему долгу и работе, которая ни на минуту о вас не забывала. И вот вы дома.
24 people were released from both sides in what was the biggest prisoner exchange between Russia and the West since the Cold War.
Welcome to Shëngjin, about an hour north of Tirana in Albania. As you can see, it's a bustling tourism destination. But a couple of years ago, it also became home to several hundred Afghan refugees after the Taliban took back power in Afghanistan. Today, many still remain and are calling it home. But it has made headlines for another kind of migrant recently. At the end of 2023, the Albanian government and the Italian government signed an agreement that would see migrants found by the Italian authorities processed in Albania. Between here, the port, and Jadra, there will be a capacity of 3,000 people. They will arrive here first, they will have their details taken, they'll then be transferred to Jadra. Both centres are closed. That means no one can go in and no one can go out. They will be guarded and secured internally by the Italian authorities, as they're technically Italian soil. Externally, the perimeter will be patrolled by Albanian authorities. When they are at the centres, they will be provided with healthcare, legal assistance, and of course basic necessities, food and toiletries. Everything is funded by the Italian government. Today I have been given exclusive information from a senior official who has said that this centre behind me will be ready to accept people as of the 15th of August, meaning the initial deadline of the 1st of August will be missed. So there will be a capacity of 1,000 people who will be welcomed. Meanwhile, work is continuing on Jadra. They confirmed to me that both centres will be fully operational at full capacity by the start of September. So as for what local people think about these two centres, it's true there have been protests in Tirana and Leisure, and there are people who are against them. But I spend a lot of time in this area. I live locally here for half of the year, and I've spoken to a lot of local people. And honestly, they're not really that bothered about it. They understand the centres will be closed, and they're not particularly worried about any negative impact on tourism or the local economy. They've had experience with Afghans coming to live here who've integrated, who are now part of the community. They're not really that bothered. Also, they're not very keen to talk to the media for a wide range of reasons. But overall, people are not too concerned, and they're hopeful that perhaps investment from the Italian government might improve some infrastructure, such as electric and roads in the local area.
The European Union's emergency mechanism, called the Civil Protection Mechanism, is in top gear to respond to the rising danger of forest fires across the region. Through its member states, the Union has a fleet of 28 water-bombing aircraft and 4 helicopters. According to the EU Commission, men on the ground can also be mobilized. Fires are affecting the south of the continent in Croatia, Italy, Greece, and neighboring countries.
We also have prepositioned 500, actually more than 500 firefighters in 4 southern European member states of the European Union. These are France, these are Portugal, but also Spain and Greece. They can be called upon to help the local first responders if the need arises.
According to the EU Commission, member states can draw from satellite images from the Copernicus system, the European Earth Observation Programme. To obtain this support, member states will have to contact the Emergency Response Coordination Centre in Brussels, which operates every day of the week. The national authorities transmit their requests for assistance, which are then forwarded to the various capitals. The procedure can be very rapid.
This is a crisis situation, so we try to act as quickly as possible. So this can take a matter of hours, sometimes a bit longer, sometimes even just a matter of minutes. But I think the general principle is that we are trying to act as quickly as possible, since often human lives are at stake.
About 600 million euros have been released by the EU to purchase 12 water bomber aircraft, which will be available by the end of the decade. The EU's civil protection mechanism was activated 10 times last year to provide assistance to member states and to countries outside the continent. By midsummer, the mechanism had already been called upon 5 times.
Venice has banned tour guides from using megaphones and limited their groups to 25 people. The new rules on tour groups sizes came into force on Thursday and aims to regulate crowds and improve local life, but they include exceptions for children under 2, school groups and educational trips. The restrictions have also been applied to the Venetian islands of Murano, Burano and Torcello. The limit was supposed to come into place in June, but this was delayed as many guides had already booked group tours of more than 25 people. Guides who break the rules could face fines from €25 up to €500. The use of loudspeakers has also been banned, as it can generate confusion and disturbances, according to the city.
Have you always dreamt to spend one day in ancient Rome? Now you can do it with a journey through Caesar's Forum. Throughout the summer, the City Authority for Cultural Heritage and Zetema Progetto Cultura are offering Romans and tourists the opportunity to take a nighttime stroll through the ruins of the first imperial forum, which go back to their 2,000-year-old splendor thanks to a virtual reconstruction. In the headphones, the unmistakable voice and oratory of Piero Angela, who with his narration accompanies visitors inside the majestic Temple of Venus and under the porticos of the ancient Forum to peek into the daily life of ancient Romans, from bankers to students. A multimedia show using films, projections, video mapping, and lots of historical information to bring to life a world far away, but in the end not too different from our own in the small everyday moments. The story of the extraordinary life of Julius Caesar, idolized by some, hated by others, cannot be missed. Tourists leave the visit enthusiastic.
It was amazing, really beautiful. It just made you feel like you're part of times gone by. I just love the fact that you could actually imagine as if you were really there back then. It was really good.
Did you like the visit? Так, мені дуже, звісно, сподобалось, тому що я зі школи дуже люблю Римську імперію, я захоплювалася завжди Юлієм Цезарем, тому, звісно, мені дуже сподобалось. Я багато фактів не знала, і я про них дізналась сьогодні, тому круто.
Me encantó, padrísima, súper constructiva, educativa y real. La tecnología ocupada, el lugar, piedras, cómo reviven las piedras es increíble.
The experience not only surprises foreign tourists, Romans and Italians are left speechless.
Le è piaciuta la visita?
Tantissimo, quasi è emozionante, no quasi con le lacrime, erano tantissimo che la volevo vedere, sono stata veramente soddisfatta.
Qual è la parte che hai apprezzato di più?
Tantissime cose che non sapevo veramente della storia di Roma e di Cesare, tantissime cose sulla scuola soprattutto, tantissimi dettagli, impressionante, cose che magari neanche ci insegnano, ma ho scoperto tante cose oggi.
The show is scheduled to run until the 22nd of September.
Another historic day in swimming at the Paris Olympics. Canada's Summer McIntosh swam the women's 200-meter butterfly in 2 minutes 03:03 to set the fastest time at the Summer Games. Team US Katie Ledecky won silver in the 200-meter freestyle relay to become the most decorated woman in the sport's history. More joy for the Americans in gymnastics as Simone Biles edged Brazil's Rebecca Andrade for her second Olympic all-around title at Paris 2024. In tennis, Spain's Alcaraz, Serbia's Djokovic, Italy's Musetti and Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime reached the men's singles semi-finals, while in women's basketball, Germany, France and the US moved to the quarter-finals. In surfing, an Australian judge was removed after a picture emerged on social media of him embracing a compatriot contestant along the shore's edge in Tahiti.